psychology and is a certified wellness coach and addictions counselor. Her background is in addictions and employee assistance counseling with additional experience in facilitating stress management and behavioral change programs. With that, I'd like to introduce you to Donna Ireland.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being here today and taking time out to focus on your health today. As was mentioned, today we're going to talk about positivity or positive thinking. My hope for you, our objective is to increase your awareness of how your thoughts and your beliefs can contribute to your stress, and to explain the impact of stress on the body and the mind and behaviors. And we're going to take a look at some common negative thought patterns, which often are occurring behind the scenes. You may not even be aware that those are going on throughout your day. And going to provide you some techniques for reframing your thoughts to help reduce your stress, which ultimately will change your outlook as well as your attitude. To get started here, I'm going to talk a little bit about stress in general. Stress can be looked at as a physical and emotional response to change. It's also a normal reaction to increasing demands and changes in life. Some examples of those ever-increasing demands and changes could be, you might be working on a project and spending a great deal of time on it, and you get close to completion and realize there's a mistake and that you have to go back, or your computer. I know I hear a lot of complaints about computers being slow or losing material or information, very frustrating. Or maybe you're trying to get your children to school or practices and trying to have that mental energy still left by the time you get to work and have to handle your job and the demands and pressures. And you all know that feeling when you think you're starting your day out really well, and then you get caught up in traffic and you end up getting to work later than you anticipated, and it can throw off your day. So these are just some examples. But when the brain perceives stress, it signals your body to release hormones to respond to the stress. And those responses are called the flight or fight response, which I'm sure many of you have heard of before. So what is happening is, most specifically with the hormone cortisol, your adrenal glands continue to produce more and more of it as the stress increases. And that creates that decision that you have to make about how you are going to act in certain situations. Are you going to respond? How are you going to respond to the stress? Are you going to pull back and retreat, which would be more of the flight response? Or are you going to be more aggressive, more assertive, or even angry? Which is more along the lines of the fight response. We're all very different in how we handle or cope with stress, so it might be different. When the threat is gone, the body is meant to return to its normal state. But when the stress is excessive and prolonged or chronic, it can negatively impact your health. Because you do not have any opportunity, you do not have any downtime, your body doesn't have opportunities to relax and get back to a normal state. So what we're going to look at is how the stress can eventually impact your body, mind, and behavior. And I'm sure most of you, when you're looking at this, will know, that's me, this is how it affects me, or you might have your own. You might have your own symptoms. So upset stomach, nausea, common complaints when someone is stressed. For me, it's knots in my stomach. I know I'm getting upset or stressed when I have knots in my stomach, or headaches, tension headaches, or tense muscles and pain. It takes a lot of energy to keep things together when you're feeling unusually stressed. And without realizing, it's almost like you're clenching. You may not be clenching your fist, but you're really holding in a lot of frustration and trying to cope. and this can cause a lot of tightening in the muscles of your body. Or you may have fast heartbeat or increased breathing. That can eventually lead to anxiety when that doesn't get taken care of. As far as your mind, you might be overwhelmed, too much coming in, too much data, not having the time to finish it, feeling anxious or worried, or unable to focus or concentrate. That's very common. Your mind just reaches a level where it's like no return. I cannot think anymore. There's just too much coming in. Behaviors might include eating effects on your eating patterns, which most likely would be either the overeating or undereating. I see it go both ways for people, or drug or alcohol abuse. You may be looking for something to help you relax, and before long you begin to depend on it to help you relax you, or difficulty sleeping, which could be either having difficulty falling asleep, or maybe constantly waking up during your sleep, very interrupted sleep, or withdrawal from others. Kind of difficult to relate to and communicate with people when you're feeling so overwhelmed or anxious, or maybe you just don't feel that well because of everything else. So the stress symptoms may be going on and affecting your health, even though you might not even realize it. You might be thinking it's due to illness, and that's what's causing your nagging headache or your frequent insomnia or your decreased productivity at work. But more than likely, stress is what's, the source and what's what's impacting it. Then over time, chronic and unaddressed stress can be damaging to your health, because as the body continues to stay in that heightened state of alert, your immune system may begin to weaken, which makes you more susceptible to illness and disease. Or you might impact your blood pressure and increase your blood pressure. You have a lot of constricting of your blood vessels when you're overly stressed. It'll eventually lead to cardiovascular disease or type 2 diabetes. So let's talk a little bit. We'll break this down into two types of stressors, and we're going to look at the external stressors, which are generally the ones that you can identify more easily. Those events and situations that cause you stress, those daily routine stressors, work and family balance, trying to juggle your work responsibilities while still managing a home and all your family needs can be very challenging and stressful. Job-related stress, lots of projects with deadlines and timelines, and maybe there's coworker or management conflicts, personality conflicts. These all can contribute. And relationships. Yes, relationships are wonderful. They can be wonderful, and people need people. We all need them, and they can add another dimension to our lives. Where we kind of have that give and take with love and feeling cared about. But at the same time, everyone has different communication styles or ways of looking at things or different priorities, which eventually can lead to conflict. So that is another form of stress. And then financial stress. Most people at some point or another in their lives have experienced financial stress. You may be experiencing it right now. How am I going to make ends meet? How am I going to send my child to college? Things like that. Just a little sidebar here. I wanted to mention that stressors, even positive stressors, which could be things such as getting married, a work promotion, having a baby, moving to your dream home or a place that you're looking forward to, these all can still be stressful, because the key here, as you see in this little circle here, is that it's involving change. All of those things involve change and a bit of uncertainty of what it's going to look like or be like. So some major events or life changes are possibly marriage, That's a big move. That's a very big change for people. Unemployment, the what ifs, the uncertainty of what's going to happen from here, and losses. You know, losses, I always put divorce in with that because that is a form of grief. Grief, that is loss, as well as death of loved ones. And then on the extreme side of these external stressors, there are those things such as accidents or natural disasters, or, you know, I mean, even most recently, we had some severe storms with some very severe damage, and that was very stressful to many people. Now, this is what we're going to be focusing on for the most part today, and that is internal stressors. We look at this as that is the stress that is caused by your own thinking and beliefs. And it is one of the most significant causes of stress, but it's often more unrecognized. And it tends to be more self-generated. So some examples of internal stressors is an inability to accept uncertainty. We just brought up unemployment. What's going to happen? Or even if you're in a job and you're struggling, am I going to be able to keep my job? Is there anything going on with that? We mentioned, you know, having a baby. What am I going to be like as a parent? How is this going to work? Empty nest. I hear empty nest syndrome, and what's my life going to look like now without taking care of my children? So different stages in life can bring on different forms of uncertainty. Until we can learn to kind of roll with some of it and understand that we can't change some of that, we have to maybe make some changes in how we think about the situations. It's going to continue to be, be a stressor. Negative self-talk. Listen to your self-talk throughout the day. Do you criticize yourself? Do you compare yourself to other people or what they have and what you don't, or maybe do you feel they do better than you do? What is your negative self-talk like? Because that can really be detrimental to your happiness and feeling good about any given day. Negative thought patterns. I'm not going to talk about those right now. We're going to talk about those in a couple minutes because they are pretty powerful in terms of being a barrier sometimes to you having some peace of mind. Unrealistic expectations. You know, if you're finding yourself often being upset with someone else or certain situations because they aren't going the way you would like them to or how you thought they should go, you might be setting yourself up for some great disappointment. You may think that those particular things that you're expecting are not that unrealistic, but to certain other people they may be because they come from a different perspective or they look at something differently, or just are things that can't be controlled, and so expecting them to change may not be a possibility. And perceptions. I want to talk a little bit about perceptions. There's this expression I really like, and it's we don't see things as they are, but rather we see things as we are. That explains why two people can look at a situation and feel very differently about it and respond to it very differently. So it's in essence, it's saying, you know, we see things the way we believe they are, but they may not necessarily be that way. The reasons for that is that each of us is very unique in how we respond to change based on our individual experiences that we've had over the years or personality differences, as well as learned coping skills. Think about your parents. Think about how each of your parents handled stress. You know, I can think of mine, and they were two separate styles completely. But which one did, you know, if you have two separate styles, which one do you think you gravitate more towards? So once that we can start to look at our thoughts about things, we're going to see that they have an impact on how we feel And then our feelings are what drive our behaviors. You're going to hear this often. If you have to write it down, but it begins with the thoughts, which affect the feelings, which then in turn affect our behaviors and how we are acting and responding. So, an example I like to use is if you think that or believe, okay, we're going to go to that thinking. If you think or believe you won't be able to handle a situation presented to you, and maybe you were given an assignment you've never done before, then you might feel what? What are some feelings that you might have? I mean, some typical feelings, but everyone is individual. Might be you feel inadequate to do it, or you might feel really insecure. I never did this before. What if I don't do a good job? There's that uncertainty. Fearful. What if I don't do a good job on this and make a mistake? Or you might just be angry at the person that's challenging you with the situation. But then take a look at that. You just went from what you were thinking to making to your feelings. How you might behave regarding that, since now you're feeling all these feelings, these negative feelings. Well, your behaviors might be anything from procrastinating, and we all know who we are. If we procrastinate with certain things, it's usually because you don't want to deal with it. So let's just make it go away and maybe avoid it. Withdrawal, or are you with these feelings? Are you getting angrier and angrier, and it's impacting how you're acting in the situation or with other people around you? So before we get into other things that we're going to talk about here today, the continuum of this changing our thinking, it's important for us to kind of take a look at these perceptions. The way we handle life's various challenges is determined by the way we think, often unconscious about these challenges. So I really like this quote. Life is lived in the mind. The quality of your thoughts determines the quality of your life. Obviously, if we want our life to be better and positive and enjoyable, it's going to require a little bit of work on taking a look at and changing our thoughts and perceptions about challenges that come our way, which are guaranteed you're going to have challenges coming your way. But even though we can't always control everything around us, we can control our thoughts, which ultimately results in changing how we feel and behave. So let me give you an example. You're held up in traffic and you're running late for work, which, by the way, did actually happen to me today, and I really had to challenge myself. So your thought might be, I'm going to be late for work, or my first appointment, or I had a meeting. What feelings might you have in a situation like that? I'm going to be late. You might start to worry. If it's involving an appointment with someone, or even with your company, am I going to look incompetent or irresponsible? So in that case, how would this person maybe be acting when they're on the road and they're feeling all these feelings? Well, I think we've seen those people, or maybe we've all been guilty of it. So you might be overreacting and trying to pass everyone. I always like when you're trying to get ahead by one car and get up to the next car. That really gets you far. It does not make a difference or change anything with you getting to work in a different time. Or while you're honking your horn or swearing, or is your attitude about, who's responsible for it and why is this happening to me? And then you get to work and you have a hard time shaking it, or has it disrupted your day? And if that incident is what occupies your mind the entire day, then the quality of your day is not good. And that kind of brings us back to this quotation. Our mind has left us feeling, in a negative place. So the good news is that thinking isn't fixed for life, and our beliefs aren't irreversibly etched forever in stone, and we do have some ability to change them. Changing them can have this positive effects, all the things we talked about a little earlier that can happen to you physically, emotionally, and with your behavior based on that cortisol and that heightened state of alert every time we keep adding another stressor as we go along in our day. So being able to take control and change those thoughts can help you even cope better with other things that are going on throughout your day. So knowing that we do have that ability to change and reframe our thoughts differently, let's take that situation again. That you're still, now you're in that car, and if this could happen again tomorrow. So how might you think about the situation differently? Maybe it's being realistic. I'm going to be late. It's obvious I'm not going to make it to work on time. Is there anything I can do about this situation? Okay, is there a possibility to take a different route? And if the answer is there really is nothing else I can do about this, then maybe it's time to do a little bit of problem solving and call work and then let them know and inform them about your situation so that you've covered that area. How might your feelings be different in that respect? It's still happening to you. You still have no control over it. So you can maybe think you'll be less agitated or angry. It's still annoying. It's happening, but there's nothing I can do about it. And then your behaviors might be less overreacting, more relaxed, maybe trying to find a different station on the radio, and just accepting it that the ride is going to be delayed. You might not be back in that fighting situation that you're trying to fight the situation by getting into the next lane or the next car. So this is the part that's going to being able to understand that you can make some changes in those thoughts. It's not saying you cannot, you shouldn't, or ever have feelings about situations. You can have those, but it's also reminding you that those feelings can also drive some pretty unhealthy behaviors, and you're still not making any changes with the thinking. So looking at things from a different perspective is what reframing is all about. But before we can talk about that a little bit, I wanted to just spend a little time on some very common negative thought patterns, and I encourage all of you to take a look at if any you can relate to any of these, because the negative thought patterns can be so habitual and ingrained that we are often not even aware of them or the effect that they're having. So all or nothing thinking in extremes. There's no gray area or middle ground. Do you ever find yourself saying, I always this, or you never this? I think if you looked at that realistically, maybe it seems like it's a lot, but very unlikely it's always or never. Then if you stretch it to everything that you do has to be perfect or right, or not done at all, because then you're feeling like if it's not perfect, you're somewhat of a failure. This can cause a lot of sabotage in a lot of areas of your life. So I work with people every day that are trying to make behavior changes. They're trying to quit smoking, trying to reduce eating or lose weight. And we talk about this because if you have all or nothing thinking, you may have just quit smoking for 4 days, and then you have a slip. And what happens with this type of thinking? You have to start over, because you can't just say, I had a cigarette and I slipped and I'm going to get back on track. It's more the thinking of, well, I made a mistake. And maybe you go into guilt, or maybe you go, as a result, you go into beating up on yourself. And so that's going to make you feel worse, so why not smoke? And the same thing can happen with trying to make some changes with eating habits. You know, one little slip, I've been doing so good, I've been watching my carbs, and then I just had this day where I went to a party and I did everything. But I always ask, so what happened from there? Well, you know, as long as I did that, I kept on going the rest of the weekend, etc. As opposed to, guess what? You can change your thought on that. You had a moment, learn from it, and give yourself a break. So there's no middle ground or middle of the road sometimes with this thinking. Mental filter, glossing over positive events and holding up the magnifying glass to the negative. 10 things can go right in your day, but you only focus on the thing that went wrong. and I think we've all been guilty of this at some point or another. Um, you make a mistake at work and you can't stop thinking about it. And then what happens from there? Do you take it home with you and you keep thinking about it and you forget about everything else that might have made this a great day? Um, so being able to focus a little more on, remembering the positives that happen in a given day can make a difference. Personalizing, taking things personally, how someone's acting towards you or treating you. It can be a hard one. We all want people to like us and be happy with us, and we want to please other people. But sometimes someone may act towards you in a way such as being curt or not listening to you or don't appear to be wanting to talk to you, and it may have nothing to do with you. The other person could be having a bad day or being in a hurry or distracted. And then the should thoughts. Those are more negative thoughts. Those are more judgmental thoughts. Think about it. How do you feel when someone says you should do this or you should do that? We don't like that. We feel like they're telling us we're not good what we're doing and that they're criticizing. And sometimes we do this to ourselves. I should not have gone out and had that cigarette on break. I could have stayed in. I should not have had that piece of cake. That's going back to those all or nothing things. And a lot of these are overlapping. So once you can start to identify some of these things, you are at a better place to start to change them and reframe them. And once again, we know the benefits of them. Once we start feeling better with our thoughts, we're going to be more likely to feel better. We have more energy, feel better about coping with things. So here's how the process works. You start off by, as we said, you identify, you challenge the thought, and you reframe it. So a little bit more specifically, you're noticing your thoughts, listening to your inner dialogue. What are you telling yourself about yourself or your behavior or someone else or a situation? Are you focusing on what another person is or isn't doing? Are you in a situation you don't feel happy about at home or at work? So you're identifying what the thought is. Challenge your thought. These three questions are going to be very important for you. What is the truth in this thought? What is the truth in this thought? How accurate is it? And then, sometimes if you're in that all or nothing kind of thinking, you're going to, that's going to be very extreme. It's going to be very hard. How are these thoughts affecting me? Are you having difficulty concentrating, feeling worse about yourself? What are your stress symptoms as a result? How are they impacting my behavior? Are these thoughts helpful? Are they helpful to you? More than likely not if you're feeling this badly about them. So staying with those three questions is going to be really important for helping you challenge them and start to turn around the thoughts. And then it's reframing it. What do you need to change about the thought? If it's affecting your self-esteem or your work performance or your relationships, try to choose another way to view your situation. So that, I know it looks like three simple things. Not three simple things, because we have these habitual, ingrained thought patterns. And no matter how effectively you may stop them in one occurrence, they may return again in a similar situation until you continue to get used to doing it. And it takes practice, just like any new behavior. Eventually you can depict a bad day as being a mildly low point in the whole week. So there is opportunity to do this. I encourage you with the reframing part. Maybe you want to set a goal for yourself. Listen to your dialogue all day long. If you're at a desk, can you jot down every time you hear it going negative? Eventually, when you start challenging it and replacing those thoughts, you may see your list go down more and more, and you're going to catch yourself more easily. Ask someone that you know to do this with you. have your partner do this with you, or possibly a coworker or someone else that's working on this, and let them maybe give you a different spin if you're really struggling on how am I going to change this. I don't know how to look at this any differently than this. It takes time and practice, but the benefits are powerful, because before long you're going to notice that you're feeling better about yourself and your outlook on your day-to-day life. So hopefully this has been beneficial to all of you. It is only one technique in terms of you being able to take care of yourself. It's only one technique in managing your stress. We have a lot of others that, excuse me. There are other ways also which we like to work with you on as lifestyle coaches. Just a reminder to you regarding your My Active Health and also the other coaching resources that we have here, also in terms of your nurse care, which we have available to you to help you with any other kind of stressors you might be experiencing in terms of your medical conditions and things like that. So visit your My Active Health. You've got trackers, videos, recipes, webinars, and a lot of other information that's designed to help you. Just summarizing really mostly, and this talks about what we did today. You're going to be more mindful with your thinking. Research does indicate that learning how to better manage your stress can reduce your physical, psychological, and emotional health. So learning to control and change your thinking perceptions can greatly improve your outlook in life. So thank you so much. This is the question and answer portion. So if anyone has any questions that might be helpful to you, this is the time for that.
Great. Thank you so much, Donna, for a wonderful presentation. We have some questions coming in. As a reminder, you may ask a question by clicking the question and answer icon located in the hidden toolbar at the top of your screen. When we finish with Q&A, we ask that you take a minute to fill out the survey that will pop up on your screen. Your feedback is important to us and will help us improve and provide the best possible presentation. So with that, I'd like to go on to our first question. Donna, can positive thinking benefit your health and how so?
Yes, absolutely. And I think, if we go back to what we originally started with, when you're in a heightened alert state and from stress, and it continues chronically to carry on, we know that it is going to be impacting everything from your immune system, your blood pressure, your blood sugar, and then all of the physical illnesses that result because of that. And so one of the benefits of the positive thinking is it is going to cut down on that negativity that's increasing that cortisol and that stress hormone in your body. It's going to help you relax more and feel better about yourself and feel happier about your day-to-day experiences.
Great. Thanks, Donna. The next question is a member is asking if you can provide some more examples of changing your thought process and what that looks like.
Yes, I can. And I had an experience recently with someone that I think is a good example. Say you're in a situation where you're a parent of a teenager, and I think, the first thing that comes to people's mind is stress. But with this person, when I was working with her, she's very, very aggravated and stressed because her teenager, her adolescent, was not doing the type of chores and things like that that she had asked him to do. And she also said that he wasn't the same person. He had attitude, and he was fighting it, as opposed to when he was younger, was willing to do those things. But anyway, as we proceeded to talk through it, she began to change her thinking about it. She began to realize that as stressed as she is with her day-to-day life and working and raising the family and everything, she realized exactly, the more she thought about it, how stressed her adolescent truly was with all of the changes that he was going through hormonally and the insecurities about his appearance, as well as all of the homework and the activities that he was involved in, and that she realized that it was just as hard for him to engage in those kinds of things as she needed him to do, as she, for herself also. And so she started to change her thinking about that, which changed her relationship with how the two of them were interacting. And actually things started to get better, and they started to get done a little bit more, not in the way she had originally expected them to, but she was appreciating any small efforts that were being made. And he, on the other end, was feeling like she finally wasn't, constantly scrutinizing him and being all over him for everything. So I think that's a good example. She changed her thoughts, and now she's feeling much better.
Great example, Donna. Thank you for sharing that. Another question just came in, and we have a member asking about more details about the flight or fight response. Can you help explain that in relation to stress?
Okay, I'm not quite sure. So what happens is there's the adrenal glands continue to keep producing this cortisol. Now that's a stress hormone that we have naturally, and it does regulate energy and a number of other things within our body. But when it starts to get too excessive, which is what's happening with them, as your stress level begins to increase as the day goes on or in your day-to-day life, those adrenals just keep pumping it out and pumping out that cortisol. You are going to get to a point where it's so hard to handle, you're uncomfortable. And that's where you might see people getting a lower frustration tolerance for things, and they may be flying off the handle a little bit more. I've even had members say to me, I don't like how I'm acting. I don't like it at all. My family doesn't even want to come around me because he's on overload with that cortisol, and he's going into that fight mode to protect himself. Wanting to, I've got to take care of this and I got to take care of that, and it's coming out of it, more aggressively. Some people, when they get on overload, they just shut down. And that's more of that flight. I got to get away from the situation. I can't deal with it. I'm too overloaded, and so therefore my mechanism is just to go where it's comfortable. I'm gonna get away from it. Oftentimes, those comfortable places that the person goes are those things that we talked about. It may be overeating, eating food, excess food, things like that, because that way you're not doing anything nasty or yelling at anyone or doing anything else. You're just kind of staying inside yourself, but of course causing harm to yourself if you're going to all the unhealthy fats and carbohydrates, which is generally the tendency when you're stressed. And hopefully that's what they're asking by that.
Great. Thanks, Donna. What are some additional techniques that you would recommend in addition to thinking positively to manage stress levels?
Yes. So there's a variety of methods available, and as coaches we do try to help people find what feels like the right fit for them and is realistic for what they've got going on in their life. But most specifically, exercise is an amazing method for reducing stress, because you're building the endorphins in the brain, which are that feel-good chemical, and it can kind of counteract the unhealthy cortisol and relax the body. Not everybody can do that. People have a hard time fitting that in, but what I do see also is even a 15-minute walk that some people are trying to fit in even on their lunch hours can make a difference in turning around and reducing that stress. You can kind of regroup during that time and walk through your problems or your frustration and just kind of get a different perspective before you have to go back again. So the exercise is very, very important. The support, finding support, is very essential. And that support could be in the form of a friend, a coworker, someone that will listen to you, that you can maybe share your stressors or how it's impacting you. But at the same time, there's so many other options out there. If you can't, if you're afraid that no one understands or I can't really discuss this with my family, you have your generally counseling from employee assistance programs or other sources that you receive counseling to be able to talk to someone. Or if it's specific stress that's related to things like being a caregiver to the elderly, maybe someone dealing with someone with Alzheimer's. I'm working with some people right now that have family members that are terminally ill, or is it maybe you're dealing with diabetes and all the concerns and fears that go along with how do I work on managing all of these things I'm supposed to do to keep my blood sugar down. There are numerous support groups that are out there for you, and you will be involved with other people that know how you feel. And sometimes you can reach out to those through the newspaper or through local hospital systems, sometimes health departments. Otherwise, you can go online, especially if you're feeling a little reluctant to do that. You can go online and look up groups in all of those categories, especially specific to any particular focus that you're having. And what you might find, is places that have discussion groups. And people throw out some questions, and people respond and talk back, and you're with other people that know how you feel. And some of them even have online meetings you can join. So the support is very important, and then the other is the stress techniques, of the relaxation techniques, and I kind of put that into the area of the deep breathing, the yoga, and the possibly Tai Chi, those types of things, because what they are doing is every one of those relaxation techniques are working on helping you relax your body and mind, and to usually do that through breath, through deep breathing. Deep breathing can help relax your body, which relaxes your mind. And when you relax your mind, you're relaxing your body. And you'll learn about that connection between the two. You don't have to be thrown off by the word meditation. Being able to just sit for a few minutes and take some deep breaths and let go of all your worries and concerns is a form of meditation. It doesn't have to be anything real complicated. But I'm a firm believer in deep breathing, even for a few minutes during the day, because it can turn around an entire day for you. And you have it with you, and you don't have to go and put in a DVD or go to a fitness club in order to get that or take a class. So those are, I think, very specific ways to manage stress or reduce the stress.
Thanks, Donna. We have one last question, and we have a couple members actually asking about active lifestyle coaching. So if you can provide an overview of that, we only have about 2 minutes left.
Sure. Yes. As we mentioned, lifestyle coaches can work with you in the areas of stress management, healthier eating, exercise, quitting smoking. So often people come to me and they say, I already know what to do, I just am not doing it. That's where we can come in. We can bridge that gap by helping you talk through to your own answers. They're there. We do not tell you what to do, and we do not tell you how you should do it. We are there to help you find a way that works best for you and what you feel most comfortable with in doing that. But we're there to help you accomplish any goals. We are not there to judge. We're there to help you work through any barriers and strategies and hopefully help you reach your best self, which is what you're all trying to, work towards.